Well, wherever you're joining us from around the world, welcome to this very special and very unique webinar where we're going to be looking in more detail, in more detail at B1G1. And as you know, B1G1 really takes a different approach to business giving. It's business giving totally reimagined. Now, wherever you are in the world, depending on where you are in the world, some of you might be having a cup of coffee right now. It's a good idea to get one of those if the time is right. And sadly, some people might even be joining us in other parts of the world where they're just getting up in their pajamas. Well, the good news is, of course, we can't see you on this webinar, but now might be a good chance to have a cup of coffee as well. But wherever you are, do please get a notebook because there's lots of inspiring information coming to you in the next 40 minutes or so. Here's how we're going to spend that 40 minutes. If by chance you have something that you want to say or whatever, then we can unmute you. All you need to do is put up your hand, or alternatively, you may want to ask some questions on the chat. And what you do, you'll see on your screen a little panel, the GoToWebinar control panel. You'll see that you're muted right now, but all you need to talk is just put your hand up. We'll unmute you, and we will record what you, or at least we'll listen to what you say. And if you have some questions, we'll do our very best to answer them. Now, it may well be that we'll have to leave many of those questions till after the webinar, but do go ahead and ask them there. I promise you, we will get back to you and answer them. So with that background, let's get underway. And just before we get underway, some of you may want to know a little more about where I come from in relation to B1G1. Let me suggest you go to that link, not now, but later. Take a note of the link, http://bit.ly/Paul CHCH. And what you'll see there is one of my TEDx talks. This is one in Christchurch. And if you fast forward to the first 9-minute point of that, you'll see an explanation of how B1G1 got started. Most people think it's an inspiring explanation as well. So do take a look at that so you can hear something of the story of the people behind B1G1. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about what B1G1 is all about. And there are three words that we use to describe B1G1. Impact, and you'll see more about that in just a second, habit, and importantly, connection. These three things are at the core of B1G1, and these three things are what B1G1 brings to your business. So we'll be explaining and exploring some of these ideas around impact by showing you some specific examples of people from around the world who are using B1G1 to great effect in their business. Then we're going to be talking about habit, and putting that all together, I think, will absolutely inspire you when you see some of the examples. And then lastly, we'll be connecting as we are right now, and we'll be encouraging you, as I said before, to interact through the program and so on. And of course, it's been my experience that people who join these webinars are people who are not just wanting to get information, but they're successful people, and they become successful because they understand that they take action as well. And so one of the things that I'm going to be doing throughout the program today is to encourage you to take some action. Let me get that started in a couple of ways. First thing you might want to do is go ahead and just hit that little button that we mentioned before, the one where you can put your hands up. Just go ahead and let me see you do that. There you go, happening. And others, or actually we all might want to do this as well. Just go to this link, on.fb.me/SSSZJEQE. Wow, that's difficult to say, not alone to type. And what that will take you to is the B1G1 page on Facebook, as you will discover. And the action that we would like you to take right now is just click like on that page. So just kind of shrink this window, go to another browser window, and do that for us now, if you would please. It's really important, actually. We love it happening. So go ahead and do that. And now that we know you can take action, thank you for doing that, we'll get underway. And the best way to do that, we find, is because B1G1 is all about reimagining business giving, then it helps if we contrast where B1G1 is vis-a-vis what people find, what people kind of relate to as normal business giving. Now, as I go through this normal part on the left-hand side of your screen, Please understand that there's no criticism involved in that at all. It is simply a benchmark by which we can say, no, B1G1 is completely different than normal, which is one of the reasons why so many people are jumping on board and making a real difference. So first thing is that normally businesses tend to support one cause. We proudly support the Red Cross or whatever else it is. In B1G1, totally different, although you can support one project, but totally different because you've got 604 at least carefully selected, and I stress, carefully selected projects from which you can choose. And one of the things you'll discover as we go through our time together today is that people actually spread their giving. With just one giving, they give to multiple projects, and as a result, create an enormous connection, as you will see. Secondly, normal giving tends to be about one-off events, things like, for example, charity dinners and those sorts of things. Now, again, nothing wrong with that, except they only happen on an ad hoc or once-off basis. In B1G1, you remember that middle part is about impact. Habit is a crucial thing. And because of the way that B1G1 operates, as you'll see, it is so easy to make your giving habitual. In fact, as you'll discover, some people even give every day through B1G1. In B1G, or rather in normal giving, there's a lot of pledging, as you know. We pledge to do this every month, whatever that pledging is. In B1G1, that doesn't happen because your giving tracks your success. It's linked to the growth of your business. So what that means is more sales, more giving, not so many sales. Well, maybe the giving will slow down. So again, no such thing as pledging. And importantly, a little side benefit of that means that you are always in control, total control of your giving. Also, when you think about the normal giving, it's all about the money, isn't it? You frequently see the chief executive up there with the very large check saying, we proudly gave X $100, or perhaps with a large check, X $1,000 to this particular charity. Now, that's really nice, except we would suggest it doesn't have much connection. But more importantly, in B1G1, it's not about the money. It's always about the impacts that you create. And one of the most interesting things about focusing on impacts is that you can do massive impact with very small amounts of money. But we never talk about the money. It's all about the impact. And again, you'll see that as we go through. Talking about money, sadly, in lots of charities, and I was just reading something just a while ago actually, as little as 37%, staggeringly, as little as 37% of the money that you give actually goes to the beneficiaries. A lot of it goes in other ways. Now, in B1, and that's because there's lots of lots of structures and those sorts of things to support. In B1G1, on the other hand, a full, and we do mean full, 100% of your giving goes to where you want it to go. And we literally guarantee that that happens. Again, normally there's little connection. It's here's the money, the charity receives it, thank you very much, that's very nice of you, but there's little connection. Whereas in B1G1, there's massive connection. And again, you'll see as we go through this how that's done and why it's so important. There's also in normal giving very little building of the business that's involved. Now, we're not suggesting that there necessarily is or should be, but what we do want to say is that in B1G1, we treat this whole thing about partnership and belonging to B1G1 very seriously. And we're deeply committed to doing things that help you grow your business. Again, you'll see some of that, particularly as we get to the last part of our program today. So do be sure and stay right to the end of our program. Final thought about normal giving is much of it is associated with guilt. We have someone approach us in the street rattling a can under our nose, or we often see mailings of children in challenging circumstances designed to make us feel guilty. Now, we think that that's not a sustainable model. In fact, we know it's not sustainable. And that's why in B1G1, everything that we do is based around joyful. We talk about sharing the joy of giving. And the last little thing that's very important, and again, you'll see some of this, particularly, again, to the end of our webinar today, about just how easy B1G1 is to work with and to implement in your business. It really is very, very simple. So that's the background, if you will. That's the framework. So let's take a look more detailed now at how basic B1G1 works. And then as we go through the webinar, you'll see how we'll build on this. So essentially, B1G1 is about this. It's about taking your services, your products, or indeed your entire sales, but maybe I should say a service, a product, or perhaps your entire sales, and then choosing how much you want to give from that product. So for example, suppose you have a product, and do excuse me if I talk dollars, even though in your where you are right now, it might be pounds, it might be euros, it might be some other currency, but let's just talk dollars just so that we can all get on the same page. So let's imagine that the particular product that you were or service that you were selling was, for example, pick a number, $200. Then you choose how much you can reasonably afford to, or how much you want to give. So let's say it was $200, and you said, well, you know what? We could give $2 for the sake of discussion. And by the way, in B1G1, that amount that you choose could actually be as small as 1 cent. And then whatever that is, you link that to one or more of these 604 projects. And each one of those is displayed in ascending dollar order. So for example, you'll discover that for 1 cent, you can give access to water to a child for 1 day. And it escalates in dollar value all the way from there. So you simply find some projects that match the amount that you have set aside to give. And then you choose projects that resonate. And resonate with who, you might ask? Well, resonate with at least 3 sets of people. One would be you, projects that might be dear to your heart. For example, you might be in coaching, and so therefore you're concerned with education. Or you might be in real estate. You're therefore concerned with shelter. So you pick things that resonate with you. You pick things that resonate with the team. In fact, increasingly in B1G1 businesses, you'll find that it's the team that's actually choosing where the giving is going. Or you might also choose to give, and again, you'll see examples of this in just a moment, actually, with things that resonate with your client. In B1G1, you can do all of that. In fact, one of the great things you'll find about B1G1 is that there is no or. There's never you can do this or this. It's always you can do this and this, again, as you will discover. So let's take a specific example. Let's say you're selling a fairly high-priced item. Maybe it's a consulting project or something like that. And let's suppose you felt that every time you made a sale, you could afford to give $100, just as a for example, so that the numbers get interesting. So when you do that, and if you chose to be overt about your giving, we will talk about that soon, you could say, well, every time we make a sale, or specifically, of course, you would turn that around to the customer to say every time you or when you buy this particular item, as a result of you buying this thing, then 1,000 children get access to water. These are things that you might choose to choose, but take a look at the next word because it's a very important word. And 300 trees get maintained, and here comes that word again, and 10 farmers get trained, and an Indigenous trainer is employed for 6 months, and 17 children are fed and educated, and all of that from that one giving. So here you can see some interesting things. You can see something about the impact that is created, and you can also see how when the giving is spread across many projects like that, then it really does generate massive connection, doesn't it? And you can do this before the sale. That is, you can talk about it before the sale. When you buy this happens. You can do it during the sale, or increasingly, you'll find that many people do it after the sale as a kind of a nice way of thanking the customer for their business. So once you've set up that kind of giving, which is very simple to do, and then each month the B1G1 system will come back to you and say, well, okay, how many sales of that product or service did you make? Bearing in mind that you were giving $100, which was doing all of those things that we mentioned on that previous slide. So let's say you said, for the sake of discussion, 10 or 5, whatever the number is, then the system would just multiply that all out for you and then do the numbers. And again, this is all under your control. You don't have to accept this at this particular point. You can change it if you wish. but then you simply pop that on your credit card. That comes through, or indeed your PayPal account. Actually, with a PayPal account, it's even smoother than it is on the credit cards. And then that giving simply comes into B1G1, and then 100% of that is distributed in exactly the way that you wanted it distributed. So that's the one aspect of the how. Now, we call that, what you just saw, we call that transaction-based giving. So in other words, some giving happens based on some transaction. But in B1G1, you can also do impact-based giving, which means you just jump. By the way, that word there should be jump, not jump. It's just jump online and give. So, for example, you may have had a great day doing something or other. You come back and you wish to express some gratitude for what happened that day. And you just jump online and you say, I might want to give 3 goats, or I might want to give so many hectares of, or protect so many hectares of orangutan forest in Borneo, whatever is your choice. So you've got all of those kind of options available to you. Let me show you some examples. Here's an example of where the giving is done, or rather, yes, where the giving is done and where the connection is made after the sale. You'll see what we call some gratitude certificates, or certificates of appreciation, coming up here. Now, these are simply downloaded from the B1G1 website, and then what we do is we help you articulate the giving. So what this is, for example, in this particular case, let me show you this. Here's the business that's concerned that does this. It's a business in Australia. It's run by the guy on the right-hand side as you look at it. His name is Robert O'Byrne, or Rob O'Byrne. And his projects, which are based on supply chain management, typically run for 3 or 4 months with a customer. So he doesn't talk about the giving before he gets the business, but what happens is when the work is completed, and it's all paid for, of course, then what happens is the particular clients, the purchasing officers, whoever they might be, get this beautiful certificate of appreciation. And interestingly, it is the team, some of whom you see there next to Rob, who choose where that giving goes. And of course, that increases their connection to the company. And it's very important to say that in B1G1, when you let the team get involved in this, it really does give them a much higher purpose for doing what they do. And you can see behind them there, they've got some of the gratitude certificates all up on the wall right there. Now, let's go. By the way, here's an example of Rob. Rob's been in B1G1, I guess, for about, let's see, 4, maybe 5 months right now. And he probably would get embarrassed if I told you this, but let's just take a note of some of the giving that's happened in the way that we just explained. So you'll see 105,000 people got vitamin supplements. By the way, that was to prevent blindness. 49,000 people got access to water. 6,000 children received educational support. 250 people got a nourishing meal. 35 people got occupational training. And Rob has given a total of 14 times. In other words, in his business, there have been 14 projects that have run to completion. Let's take a by the way, let's take a look at this one. This is another interesting one. This is a professional service firm, or some people call them professional knowledge firms. This is an accountant. Her name is Kylie Anderson. The reason I'm showing you this one is to have a look at what's happening down the bottom of your screen. And notice as well how Kylie's website is kind of interesting. It talks about, it gets what we call her why right up front. Now, let me do something that the people who make the webinar software suggest we should not do, but that is I'm going to go live right now to Kylie's site. Here we go. You'll see it, or at least I hope you see it loading. Here we go. And the reason I'm going to do that, let me just scroll down here to the bottom of the page. And what I'm going to do as well is just expand it a little bit so that you can see what's going on here. Right down the bottom of your page there, you'll see our giving impact. And you'll see right in the middle how there's some numbers. You know, we've given 262 people, whatever that was, it went through too quickly, 67,613 people medical support. And this is what's called the B1G1 widget. Again, This is part of this connection that B1G1 helps you forge. This, by the way, is so simple to put on your website, anywhere you want to put it, actually. And what's interesting is it is tracking the giving, your giving, across all of these projects in real time. So if Kylie went online right now and actually gave, then that number right there would absolutely or it would show rather in the B1G1 widget. Now we're going to talk in just a while about how you get one of those, so stay tuned for that. Here we are back on the non-live thing, if you will. We're not on the web now, we're back on slides. So let's take a look at how what you just saw happens. In fact, here's Kylie. Let's take a look at some of her giving. She's been involved in B1G1 since March the 12th. So that's what, about, about 6 months, maybe 7 months right now. Take a look at some of the things that have happened. 208,000 people got access to water, as you can see. 40,000 people, it's agricultural support. Now, all of this is coming from a 5-person accounting firm. Again, you get the message, I trust, that it's all about impact. It's not about the dollars and cents. Now, you see 1,520 people in need got a nourishing meal. But what's interesting is we actually need, on Kylie's done 41 givings in that time. But what's interesting is we actually need another page. Take a look. Here's some more things that have happened. And you can see some of these numbers, and you're probably drawing breath and going, oh my goodness, that's amazing. And it absolutely is. And it speaks volumes about the effectiveness and ease and impact that you get through B1G1. By the way, we do actually need another page as well. So there you see some animals given shelter. By the way, all of these projects here have been chosen, and they change regularly because they're chosen by the team in Kylie's business. And guess what? We actually need another page as well. So you're beginning to see how B1G1 really is reimagining what business giving looks like. And so all of those projects were made available. Just go figure out what it would have cost Kylie to do all the due diligence on those projects and so on. I mean, it just could not be done. But through B1G1, it's there, it's ready, it's easily accessed, again, as you'll see. By the way, just to give you a little insight as to where Kylie operates from, there it is, a very nice environment. She's actually right here. I hope you can see that on your screen, in the second story of that particular office block in the main street of a place called Noosa, or actually it's called Tewantin. That's the inside of Kylies Office when they decided to, it looks a bit higgledy-piggledy there. It's actually really nice to be in when they did some redecoration. And just to show you, that this is normal, if you will, here's the team. Kylie up there on the top left with some of her colleagues, and then down the bottom with some of her colleagues as well. And you can see pretty normal people, but just doing great things. By the way, the reason they're having a little drink there, I know, is because I think it was a Friday afternoon, and because they were celebrating the completion of the renovations, I think, of the office. By the way, talking of celebrating, as I'm doing this webinar now, just a couple of days ago, a guy whose last name escapes me, but I know his first name was Felix, jumped from, 39 kilometers high from a balloon and broke all sorts of records. Well, Kylie didn't actually jump from 39 kilometers, but she did take a jump. She'll kill me for showing you that. That's her jumping on her daughter's wedding day. I think jumping for joy. So let me get rid of that because she'll be very embarrassed about that. And one of the other things that Kylie does, and indeed every other business does, because they get so much from B1G1, is they recommend other businesses to it. And here now, if we were to show you this live, all of these things here would actually be moving. But take a look at what it's called. It's called Leverage Giving Impact Summary. So these are, in fact, other businesses, in fact, clients, and some of them were non-clients, actually, that came to Kylie because of B1G1. And you can see, take here, for example, here's a particular business. Now, again, if this was live and we moved the mouse over, you'd see the name of that business. And here you can see the giving. And again, if it was live, you'd see the amounts there. that is not the dollar amounts, but the actual impact amounts of the giving from these various clients. So for the very first time in B1G1, and again, this is why it's business giving reimagined, you get to see the totality of your giving and the impact of that, of your influence at every stage of the process. The reason I'm going to show you this one just before we get into how you can take action to be a part of this, I want to show you one of the people who was actually in that last diagram because she became one of Kylie's clients. Now, this is an interesting case because it allows me to talk about something very, very interesting. You may remember early on I mentioned that people in B1G1, some people give every day. This is one of them. Her name is Karen Omerod. She runs a store called Kobomo, and it's a tiny little store. Let me show you. Before I show you the store, here you can see some of the giving that Karen does. Now, this is actually about, let's see, about 15 days out of date. There's much more going on here, but even so, take a look. Pretty impressive. She, at the time of this, had done 106 givings. That is to say, she had been giving, she'd been in B1G1 for 106 days, and she gives every day. Interestingly, she gives at the end of each day. You're about to see how she does that. And alongside her, when she does that, actually keying in the numbers, is her 6-year-old son, whose name is Max. And so she's really leveraging the giving out to the younger generation as well. Pretty powerful. Here's where her store is, in this place called Noosa Village. And you'll see down the bottom left where there's a little sign saying "We are here." Well, let's go a little further and actually jump into the store. And you can see it's a cacophony of color. And there's much more behind this as to where these dresses come from. That's actually in Thailand as well. There's all sorts of interesting things going on. But where I want to direct your attention to is this left-hand side over here. Now, right here around this swing tag. Now, buying this item changes our world. Now, you remember we said that in B1G1 you can be covert about your giving. That is, you can do it after the event, like Rob O'Byrne, as you saw there, or you can be a little more overt. Karen has decided, it's Karen's choice, to be overt. And what we did, and this is, again, you'll see how this works, in terms of not being static at all and not saying, well, Karen, here you go, but actually getting involved with Karen and creating together that particular swing tag, much like we do create so many great articulations of giving for B1G1 clients right around the globe. Let me show you how that looks close up. There's the front of it. Buying this item will change the world. And then on the right, by purchasing this, you also give a nourishing meal. Now, what actually happens is at the end of the day, the clients, of course, take those home and they talk about it when they get home. It's a really interesting piece of connection, isn't it? And then at the end of the day, Karen's able to count those particular things and then enter them into B1G1 right here, because she's got a thing set up called My Favorite Giving, which of course we would recommend that you set up as well. Now, one of the great things about doing that every day, see down here where it says latest giving? Well, she gets to be in there every day because that circulates around, by the way. But Karen gets to be there every day, so people around the world get to know Kobomo. The reason that she does that is not because she gets featured there, but simply because that's who she is. She just loves to do this. She does it through this process called My Favorite Giving. And you can see here she's got the giving set up on the left-hand side of that orange square or orange rectangle right now. And all that happens is she simply enters the numbers right on here, presses add to cart, and then just pays that through, in her case, through PayPal, but it could equally be through credit card. She tells us, as do other people who do it this way, including one doctor actually who does it this way. They tell us it takes 40 seconds to do that giving. So again, the giving is totally seamless through the B1G1 platform. That's how easy it is. And that happens, by the way, through this particular homepage and through the little piece you see on the right-hand side there. I just highlighted here, called My Tools. This is where everything gets controlled. It's very, very simple. And the point about it is that it's changeable. You are in total control of what happens. There you go. There it is, highlighted for you in B1G1. So let's now talk about how you can take action and to be a part of this, given, of course, that this is inspiring for you. Here's somebody from London, actually, who just a few weeks ago joined B1G1. This is Peter Tattersall. Peter's clients are not governments, what do you call it, councils. Take a look at how Peter expressed it just after he'd done a giving on B1G1. And by the way, he did that the moment he joined. Thanks a lot, Paul. You've set up something very special, and I'm really thrilled to be a part of it. It felt great. And by the way, we get so many of these emails every day to say it feels great to give. In his case, vocational training for children in Cambodia who've been trafficked. By the way, later this year, at the beginning of 2013, actually, where we have regular study tours to the projects, and this one in January is going to visit Cambodia to see what's happening there. And also we'll be working with the children, and we'll be building playgrounds and so on, as well as, of course, enjoying some of the other things that happen in Cambodia. But personally, or on a personal level, to have kind of a life-changing experience through getting really close to what's happening. So, and he says, for every one-day training course we're commissioned to deliver, we'll fund for a teacher to deliver 1 day of vocational training for these children. That's pretty damn good, isn't it? I think my team and my customers are going to really like this. I sure do. Now, as you know, if we've met, I spend a fair bit of time on an aeroplane. And just recently, one Friday, we were in London and we met with Alex Capcott, who became a B1G1 partner. I got on the plane, and then I got off the plane in Singapore, turned on my phone, and there was a lovely message from Alex. Let me read it to you rather than play it. It says, although it's actually better if I play it, but it doesn't work too well on webinars when I play it. But anyway, he said this: I was just amazed at the ingenuity and the genius of the whole B1G1 concept. It's so easy. By the way, you'll hear so many people say that. It's so easy for every business in the world to take it up. It's unbelievable. It's probably the cleverest thing that I've ever heard. Now, if that's how you feel and you're inspired by what you see, then let's talk about how you take action on that by talking about how you become a part of B1G1. And there's several options. So this is where you need that notepad to take down some details. The first option is where you become a B1G1 member. And as you can see, that's just $1 a day, and it's renewable every year. Now, I know that you would join B1G1 not because of what you get, but because of the ability to give in this fascinating way. But we want to make sure that when you join B1G1, you're actually getting more value than you give in terms of the membership fee. So let's talk about some of that value right here. So first of all, you get 634, I've said there. That goes up and down, but currently, as you can see, there's 634 great in integrity projects. If we were with you right now, I would get you to underline that, in integrity projects, from which you can choose. It's an amazingly simple giving platform. By the way, later on, we'll talk very briefly about how we choose those projects and how you can recommend your own projects as well. So just be sure and stay tuned for that. An amazingly simple, as you've already seen, giving platform. You easily spread your giving. You've seen that over multiple projects in single givings. So if you can imagine, there's this process back at B1G1 where we take those single givings and then spread it amongst the projects in a very efficient way, making sure that 100% of your giving goes where you want it to go. Not into building buildings, not into people who raise funds, but to actually, not into administration, but actually to where you want it to go. There you go, 100% of your giving going where you want it to go. It's giving that's impact-based. It's not about dollars and cents. It's about impact, and it's giving that is very, very connecting. And I'm sure as we've gone through this, you've imagined yourself saying, wow, that would be good for us to do. Gosh, imagine how we could use that. And by the way, you're just seeing here the tip of the iceberg. You've seen your very own real-time B1G1 widget. You saw that when we highlighted Kylie Anderson there for you. And this is really interesting. You can build your brand with the rights to use the B1G1 logo. In fact, we highly, highly, highly recommend that you take the B1G1 logo and you actually download that from the B1G1 site. And when you're reprinting your business cards, you put that on your business card. Of course, you'd want to put it on your website, you'd want to put it on your emails, all of that sort of stuff, but put it on your business card. Here's the reason. When you have it on your business card, it absolutely changes every single conversation that you have, opening up an entirely new world of connection for you. And by the way, once you're a B1G1, once you're on board with B1G1, then you can add your team members in for free. So they can do their own giving from their own pocket, and really start to create a culture of giving and higher purpose in your business. Now, we said that the investment in that, as you recall, was $365. So and that's business membership. And I'll show you how you can indicate that that's what you would prefer in just a second. But before we do that, let's take a look at this one. Now, it looks like there's one option here, but in fact, you're going to discover there's actually two. So stay tuned. This is called Business Partner. And what happens here is this. You get everything that you've just seen, plus some very, very interesting things. First of all, there are never, ever, ever any renewals. Never. As you can see in the top right-hand corner, this is for life. You're with us for life. You get membership of businesses that give, which means that you can have this connection with all of the other people around the world, all the other businesses who are like-minded, just like you. You get our full-time support articulating your giving. I wish you could be in our office and hear all of the things that go on where we're talking about how you can build that particular brochure, how you can articulate that in the website, how you can articulate that on event tickets, how you can articulate that once you've done some coaching, and so on and so forth. The articulation of the giving is absolutely crucial. If you've seen some of the things that we do live, you'll know that we talk about words matter. And so we bring an enormous expertise to enable you to articulate your giving in such a way that it really, really does connect with the people that you want it to connect to. And talking of connecting, one of our B1G1 businesses produced a magical DVD series called Building an Outstanding Business, where they interviewed 8 really fascinating entrepreneurs. They produced that as a DVD. I think you can buy it now on the internet for something like $300. And what they said was, Paul, since we're B1G1, we think that other B1G1 businesses might benefit from that as well. So once you're a partner, then we give you that. It's a very powerful thing. And what we do is we don't give it you in a DVD series. We give it you on a B1G1 USB stick, which, by the way, is also given by a B1G1 business member, or business partner, actually. And on that stick, there's all sorts of other things. There's the B1G1 Imagine movie, so many other things, all of which you can download from the web. But here they are in just a very nice, convenient place for you. And then, last but by no means least, as a B1G1 partner, you get on-demand business mentoring, and I stress business mentoring with me. Now, clearly, that's not up on the B1G1 website, and I hope you understand why. Because if we had that on the website, then people would be going, oh my God, we can actually get Paul to mentor us for just $50. That is crazy. And yes, it is, but it's available to all B1G1 business partners. And I have to say, it is bringing them fantastic results, whether they be business startups, particularly startups where we might actually have 3 or 4 mentoring sessions really, really quickly. And then that kind of tails off as the business gets on track, and we might only connect every 3-4 months. And of course, with existing businesses, often business can be lonely, can't it? And so you're faced with these interesting decisions, sometimes choices, And what happens is B1G1 partners can call up or actually email and say, can we mentor? Can we have, half an hour, whatever it is? Tomorrow we set that up usually by Skype, or I can call you directly. And I can tell you that at the end of those things, people get off the phone and go, wow, that was really, really something. And typically they then hop online and give as well, which they don't have to. It's free. Now you might say, well, why on earth do you do that? The mentoring is self-serving. It's really for me because you will take me to places that I've never been. You will ask me questions that I find fascinating, and I will always have some interesting and valuable suggestions for you based on, of course, all of the years that I've been involved in building great and exciting businesses around the world. The other reason, of course, that I do that is because it helps you build the business, which of course means that there's more giving. So, as I said, in some ways, it's self-serving, but it's there. But you won't find it on the website for obvious reasons. But it's there, and it's there just for B1G1 business partners. Now, here are some of the things. Or in fact, if you ask business partners, what are the key things there? Then they would say, well, the renewals are really cool, or the fact that we don't have any, the articulation and the amount of time that we take on that, rewriting things and so on, they reckon that's just enormously powerful, and not surprisingly, the mentoring as well. So that's the business partner, and here's that second option that is just available to you because we've connected through the B1G1 process in some way, shape, or form. So what you can also do if you want to is just spread that partnership across 5 months at just $300. Now it's not $300 for life. You just do that for 5 months, but you get your B1G1 partnership for the rest of your life. So those are a couple of, or at least 3 options. Let me show you how you let us know which option that you would like to take. There are 7 things that you need to let us know. Take a note, by the way, and you just email us now to that address there, paul@b1g1.com. And here are the 7 things you put in your email. Your first name and your last name, your company name, your address, as in your physical address, the website, your phone number, and type. Now, what do we mean by type is this. If you would hit a 1, well, that would mean business membership. If you put in 2, that would mean business partnership. And if you put in times 5, that means business partnership, but spread over those 5 months at just $300. So when you email us, what we will do is we will then create, no need to think about credit cards or anything like that. So we will create your B1G1 account for you, and then someone on the team will send you what's called a PayPal request. And so that we can then complete the financial side of the transaction very, very securely, and so on. So all you need to do is just send us that information. In fact, at the end of the webinar, no need to take a note of all that, because at the end of the webinar, I think about an hour after the webinar, we'll be sending you an email that reminds you of those things. Now, I promised you a couple of things earlier on that were going to happen right at the back end of our time together today. And again, thank you for being here, and thank you for staying as well. So let me honor that promise now, and I want you to be introduced to these guys. This is a guy from, or a team from Jersey, the man closest to you. They look like bouncers, don't they? But they're not. Is Darren Mallory. And Darren joined B1G1 just last Friday. It's now Wednesday as we're doing this. And he joined in Jersey. And Darren is a plumber, or at least, yes, is a plumber. And just last night, that is to say 3 nights after he joined, we got this email that I would love to share with you. Go ahead and turn me down for a minute if you want and read it, but just in case, I'll read it for you. Thanks for email. I thought I'd drop you an email to let you know how our first B1G1 Giving has come about. By the way, Darren did his first B1G1 Giving about 24 hours into his B1G1 membership, and that's very, very important to do. Then he says, since the seminar on Friday, when I signed up to be a business partner, I have been racking my brains as to how this was all going to work out. And then I had my first B1G1 email from you guys. Now, in that first B1G1 email, what we effectively do is give you the keys, if you will, to B1G1. We give you the passwords and all of those sorts of things that unlock the B1G1 site for you, and your first thing that I'm sure you'll do is go, oh my goodness, there's all of this here as well. And then the email continues, and I love this bit. When I was a child, if I wouldn't eat my dinner, my mum would always say, eat it all up, there are children starving in Africa. And I would say, well, put the food in an envelope and send it to them. Not practical and a little cheeky, says Darren. Well, as a plumbing and heating company, I thought about how for every ball valve we sell, we'll give $1 to the Water for a Day project. By the way, that gives water to a day for 100 children. The general effect will be that, this is the bit that I really love. The general effect will be that if we stop a ball valve from wasting water here, then we can kind of send the water to where it is needed in Africa. Isn't that something? But it doesn't stop there. He says that's just the start. We'll now start looking at setting up donations for every boiler, oil tank, heat pump, solar system, and so on. What do you think? Well, I think it's amazing, don't you? And then he adds, by the way, the B1G1 website is so easy, even I can manage it. Kind regards, Darren. And in some ways, that kind of verifies, I guess, all of the things that we've been talking about in our time together here. And it's one of the reasons, and these are emails that, very similar emails that we get every day. And one of the things that we strive to do is to make B1G1, clearly this is happening to Darren, to make B1G1 the best business decision that you've ever made as we work together to build your business and at the same time to let your business unleash the power of giving in this fascinating way. And talking, and you decide which of those options you like. I promised I talk with you about projects and charities just quickly. Where you might want to go to find out more information on this, I'll show you in just a second. But let me just mention this. All of the projects and charities that are in B1G1 are recommended by existing B1G1 businesses, that is to say, the members and the partners. Now, just because they recommend them doesn't mean that they come into B1G1. What that means is that we then go through, as you would want us to, a very, very stringent due diligence process, which is handled by our independent board in B1G1 Giving. And they apply some pretty interesting criteria. So much so that as I'm speaking to you now, I can tell you that 6 out of 7 of the charities that are recommended actually do not get through that filter for various reasons. If you want to find out, now, by the way, that doesn't mean that you should not give to those charities. If you have some existing charities to which you give and to which you value, then you can actually let us know, even if those charities don't become part of B1G1. And as a result of becoming part of B1G1, obviously the fund flow to them increases dramatically. But if they don't, then that doesn't mean you should stop giving. We want you to keep giving to those charities. And then all you do is let us know through receipts and so on. And then we have a lovely way of blending that in with your giving impact statements on B1G1. So we try to be as inclusive as we possibly can. And if you'd like to find out more about that, you just go to the B1G1 page, you go up here to the tabs, and you click on this tab, that is to say the More tab, and then you will see all the ways in which we deal with the different criteria that we have. So if that's of some interest to you, go have a look there. The other final thing that I want to talk about is articulation. Some people say, oh my God, you must be so busy with all of these people around the world. Yes, that's true, we are. But we love it. And some people say, oh, I'm not going to call you because you're busy. Well, please, 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 let us work with you. This is it's a very different business experience, believe me, where it's not, wow, that's great. You're one of, you're B1G1. Thank you very much. Goodbye. No. This is working with you to create. This is the big thing that B1G1 is about, to create a world that's full of giving, because that's a happier world, and a world that's driven by small to medium scale businesses. it really is a fascinating, fascinating thing. And as I'm speaking with you tonight, it actually is tonight now in Singapore, then, I think we're up at 17.2 million micro giving activities that have come through the B1G1 platform. Much of that is there because of the way we work together. We actually have in our office one of these things, an old car horn, and we honk that whenever we're talking to B1G1 partners and members around the world. So it can be a pretty noisy place sometimes. So there you go. We've been through a lot of things tonight, or whatever time of day it is where you are, as we've looked at welcoming you to B1G1 and to this very fascinating world that's being created. Again, thank you for being a part of it. I hope that as a result of the time that you've spent with us here, you've taken lots of notes and that you really understand now a few more things about B1G1. Of course, you'll never understand it all until you're part of it. And we hope that as a result of what you've experienced through this webinar, that you'll go back and look at that email and say, okay, well, we're going to join as pick out whatever one it is, so that together we can create a world that's a very different place as we reimagine and so continue to reimagine what business giving is all about. I'm really looking forward on behalf of all of the people in the team and B1G1 and indeed all of the B1G1 businesses around the world to welcoming you to this very, very special place. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Bye.